Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. May 11th, 2018.
The Cooner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services. Cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
12:06 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, let me ask you this fundamental question. Are we now going to become a sanctuary country in a matter of a couple of years? The reason why I ask, and I think this is frankly now one of the biggest stories of our time, much underlooked by the mainstream media, is there is now a stunning report in today's Washington Times. I know the reporter. It's by Steve Dinan. I used to be his editor, which should worry every single American. And it is essentially this. According now to the latest report by the Federation for American Immigration Reform, listen now to this. 50%, or almost, just over 49%, almost 50% of all Americans now live in a sanctuary city or in a sanctuary jurisdiction. In other words, I want you to think about this. Half of the country already lives in either a city, town, county, jurisdiction that has sanctuary status for illegal immigrants. And if this trend continues, according now to this bombshell report in the Washington Times, within about 5 to 10 years, the way it's been exponentially proliferating and expanding, the sanctuary movement, we are going to have the whole country become a sanctuary country in less than a decade. And if you want to see how fast this movement has just exploded and taken off, according now to the FAIR report as shown in the Washington Times piece, listen to this. Much of this occurred under President Barack Hussein Obama, i.e. the dear leader. When he came to power, there were less than 30 jurisdictions who declared themselves sanctuary city, sanctuary town, sanctuary jurisdiction, whatever. In other words, that invoke sanctuary status. There are now over 564. Now, the big ones are obviously California, which is a full sanctuary state, officially, New York, Illinois, which are de facto sanctuary states, and of course, Massachusetts, in which sanctuary cities are now spreading like wildfire. The epicenter is obviously Boston, where a lot of people live and work, but you roll right on through. You've got Somerville, you've got Salem, you've got Chelsea, you've got Lynn, you've got, I mean, just do the, you've got Cambridge. You just go right through city after city, town after town. And so, if this trend continues, we are now going to become a sanctuary country in less than 10 years. This is how fast the movement is proliferating. It is now, at this point, almost unstoppable, unless we say enough is enough. Now, tied to this, I believe, is the reason why President Trump was elected in 2016. Because we are now facing an historic invasion from the South. We have at least 12 to 20 million illegal immigrants in our country. I think the real number is closer to 30 or 40 million, but let that go. And they are pouring in. And the latest example was obviously the Central American migrant caravan, which just came right across the border, blew through the border. Many of them are now in our country. All of the others are now applying and being processed for asylum status. And so President Trump, at a meeting with his cabinet several days ago, called out and, in fact, criticized his current Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, saying that she had failed to secure our border. She had failed to prevent the Central American caravan from crossing our border. And he basically told her, either you shape up or you ship out. Well, according now to multiple media reports, she apparently drew up a letter of resignation, was about to hand in her resignation letter, and then decided against it because she was humiliated by the way Trump had publicly called her out in front of the entire cabinet. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to throw it open to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. To me, she should be fired on the spot. Her job as Homeland Security Secretary is to seal, secure, and protect our borders. She is failing to do that. This caravan was known to everybody. They had advertised it to the world. It went on for 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. That she wasn't prepared, that she wasn't able to put together a coherent plan and strategy to repel that invasion, to me was a demonstrable failure on her part. Furthermore, Trump is now conducting cabinet meetings as he would be the CEO of a company. They're almost like boardroom meetings. And he's going around and he's saying, what have you done? What have you done? What have you accomplished? And now he's basically saying, look, I entrusted you, Homeland Security Secretary Nielsen, I entrusted you to take care of this invasion from the Central American migrant caravan, from the Muslim refugees trying to come in, from the Central American refugees trying to come in. Our border is being swamped and overwhelmed, and you've fallen down on the job. And to me, he needs to fire her. If she's not up for the job, you get rid of her. And furthermore, she's a Bushie. What did you expect? She worked under George W. Bush. She wrote a report actually saying and praising the benefits of so-called mass immigration, how it was good for big business, how it was good for the business community. So, Mr. President, I'll be honest with you. You want to know why the Department of Homeland Security has fallen down on the job? You want to know why they're unable to secure that border? You want to know why Kirstjen Nielsen did absolutely nothing to stop that Central American migrant caravan? Because she's a globalist. She ultimately doesn't believe in your America First agenda. And so, my friends, what is now happening is as plain as the sky is blue. We now have an historic invasion coming in through our southern border. Millions of illegals are coming into our country. Many of them are MS-13 gangbangers tied to the Mexican drug cartels. We don't know who many of these people are. Many of them are criminals, rapists, murderers. Others are carrying all kinds of diseases. They have not been properly vetted. Those that are not violent criminals, many of them go on welfare. They are sucking our system dry. They are bleeding us white. Others are taking away jobs from Americans. The wall has still not been built. And now we find out that if this trend of sanctuary cities continues, we're going to be a sanctuary country in less than 10 years. That over 50% of Americans, now I'm still lucky, I'm part of the 50%. In my town, Rentham, they haven't declared it a sanctuary city yet, or a sanctuary town yet. But 50% of Americans are now living in jurisdictions that are openly shielding and harboring illegal aliens against our own federal government. Enough is enough. It is time for Trump not just to put the National Guard, but to put U.S. troops along the entire southern border and crack down on sanctuary cities before it's too late. What should we do to stop the sanctuary movement and to crack down on sanctuary cities? Your calls next. 12:20 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Cooner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, my friends, I want to give a hat tip to Breitbart. They are really driving this story right now about this border battle that is now taking place between President Trump and his own Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen. In a recent cabinet meeting, he unloaded on her. Quote, Kirstjen Nielsen, the Homeland Security Secretary, told colleagues she was close to resigning after President Trump berated her on Wednesday in front of the entire cabinet for what he said was her failure to adequately secure the nation's borders. Furthermore, Mr. Trump's anger toward Ms. Nielsen at the cabinet meeting was part of a lengthy tirade in which the president railed at his entire cabinet about what he said was their lack of progress towards sealing the country's borders against illegal immigrants. In other words, he went after Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General. He went after everybody. It wasn't just Kirstjen Nielsen. And basically what he's saying is, look, I ran on putting America first. I ran on securing the border. I ran on stopping this invasion, this historic invasion from the South. And I'm surrounded by people that are either incompetent or, frankly, fifth columnists and globalists who are trying to actively undermine my agenda. And look, my advice to the president is this, and then I want to throw it open to you. 617-266-6868. He has to declare, Mr. President, I'm telling you, you have to declare a state of national emergency. You are the commander-in-chief. We have done this in our past for nearly 100 years. We have put U.S. forces along the Mexican border. It has been done for over 100 years. We can do it again. Militarize the border, or else we are going to be overwhelmed. And it's not just from the illegals that are coming in, but from the sanctuary city pro-amnesty movement from within the country. Listen now to this. So the executive director of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, they have their bombshell report that says now that 50% of all Americans now live in some kind of a sanctuary status, a jurisdiction that has sanctuary status for illegal immigrants. Bob Dane says this, quote, this is just an astounding and dramatic surge of sanctuary jurisdictions. They have doubled in just 2 years, obviously in opposition to Trump. And if you game that out, if the exponential growth continues, it's not going to be long before it's accurate to say the United States is a sanctuary country. Meaning, forget even passing amnesty, if the country goes essentially sanctuary status, then you've got de facto amnesty. And what the liberals are trying to do in alliance with the Republican globalists, and I'm going to mention McCain in the next segment because you want to hear this, you're not going to believe what he's saying now on his deathbed, is they want to turn the sanctuary movement, the amnesty pro-open borders movement, into what gay marriage was. Something that is inevitable. Something that cannot be stopped. Something that is supposedly on the right side of history. My friends, we have to stop them now before it's too late. Agree? Disagree? Ralph in Watertown, you're up next. Go ahead, Ralph.
Let's cut to the quick right away. Who has the power to send federal marshals to a city to arrest the mayor and drag him out of office in handcuffs? Who has the power right now to do that?
The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions.
And he's the only one?
Well, technically, Trump can order him, but essentially he is the chief law enforcement officer for the country. So ultimately, the prerogative lies with Sessions, the AG.
Can Trump do it on his own?
He would need the approval of the AG.
Well, can he get that?
He wants to fire him.
Well, then why doesn't he fire him?
I mean, because
they were fooling around playing games.
No, Ralph, I'm with you, but I mean, I'm just saying, why doesn't he? He wants to fire him. The problem is everybody has told him, you fire him, we're going to impeach you. So I mean, they're trying to box him in.
But listen, that's another thing that's getting me. You can't impeach Trump because he has not committed any crime since he's been in office.
I'm with you.
The whole impeachment thing is a big joke.
Ralph, I think he's going to have to call their bluff. Ralph, I'm with you.
He would have to do it. He can just say, you want to impeach me? Go ahead, try.
Ralph, look, and thank you for that call. Look, to be fair to the president, look, let me just, so you understand what's going on, okay? In his mind and what his people are telling him, he's extremely frustrated. He is really trying to prevent this historic invasion. And one of the reasons why I voted for him, and one of the reasons why I continue to stand with him is, say what you want, the guy is trying. I mean, he really is trying. He now has, depending on the poll, either 49, 50, 51% approval. So his approval numbers are going up. The economy is booming. The Mueller investigation now is really off the rails. Okay, things are starting to break against Robert Mueller in a major way. You have a potentially historic summit with Kim Jong-un, the little rocket man, coming up. You got big midterm elections coming down the pike. What his people are saying is, the longer time goes, the stronger you'll be. So if you fire Sessions, all hell is going to break loose on Capitol Hill. The Republicans will go berserk. The Democrats will go berserk. The media will go berserk. And they're going to paint you again as this sort of irresponsible, reckless, wild man. When now he really is starting to look, let's be honest, like the makings of a great president. I mean, he just does. You've got the economy now really starting to take off. He's handling foreign policy in a very serious, professional way. You look at now at some of his accomplishments, they're starting to pile up. So they're saying, look, you fire your attorney general with the protection the establishment is giving him. You're basically going to war with the swamp. Do you really need that going into the midterms? So he's got this pressure on him all the time. Look, my advice to him, I understand the argument. We're under an invasion. We're under an invasion. And you've got this bombshell report that the mainstream media is obviously downplaying. It's not half the country geographically. It's worse than that. Half the country, in terms of its population demographically, now lives in a sanctuary jurisdiction. And that's just in 10 years. And is growing exponentially. In another 5 to 10 years, we're living in a sanctuary country. It's game over. Mr. President, now is the time to act before it's too late. And by the way, fire Secretary Nielsen. Get a DHS secretary that will secure that border. Just my opinion. Arthur in Chestnut Hill, you're up next. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, there were a few related things here, and it also has to do with the Mueller investigation. It's already been proven that it's already documented that a president cannot be indicted. The reason he can't be indicted is because he needs to do his job to protect the people of this country. And the Mueller investigation has a foundation of nothing and is doing that because otherwise he'd be able to have the time and resources to go after these illegals. I would say that the fact that they're going after him on this trumped-up charge is causing him to not be allowed to do his job with regards to the border because he needs to turn around and file legislation because these people coming across the border, once they got here and Mexico didn't do anything, they were perfectly within their right based on our laws that needed to be changed.
I'm with you. No, Arthur, look, I'm with you. And the Mueller investigation is starting now to obviously preoccupy him, paralyze him, prevent him from doing his job as president of the United States. And I think that's one of the key purposes of the Mueller investigation. Okay, my friends, we'll continue to take your calls, I promise. And John McCain, goes hard now against Trump supporters. But first, there's a new poll asking Americans how they feel the Supreme Court should interpret the Constitution. Wow, I'm interested in this. Evan Heidenrich is in the WRKO newsroom with those details. What are they, Evan?
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
1236 here on the great WRKO. All right, the sanctuary movement is on the march. New stunning report out in the Washington Times. According to a report by the immigration group FAIR, 50%, almost 49 point something, basically 50% of all Americans now live in a sanctuary jurisdiction. Could be a sanctuary state, could be a sanctuary town, a sanctuary city, whatever. This has now been an explosion in the last 10 years. Here in Massachusetts, just a couple days ago, the town of Sudbury recently voted, or at least the town council did, to make Sudbury now a sanctuary city. So here in Massachusetts, it is proliferating and expanding at a rapid pace. And the question is, what should Trump do? What can he do? And what do we need to do to stop this before we become a sanctuary country, as the report predicts we will be in less than 10 years? Now, as all of this is taking place, who in many ways has been the leader of the pro-amnesty, open borders, globalist wing of the Republican Party? It has been none other than McManiac John McCain, who, as you know, is suffering from very severe brain cancer. He's now very sick. He's at his ranch in Arizona. Well, now in one of his final acts of defiance against the Republican grassroots and the conservative rank and file, McManiac is now lashing out at conservatives. Number one, just as a quick aside, he admitted that he was the one who got the Christopher Steele dossier and had his people give it to James Comey. He said, quote, duty and honor demanded it. In other words, he did everything in his power to try to sink and destroy President Trump, okay? But let that go. Let that go. His bigger point, he says, is that the Republican Party, in his view, is now composed of racists, bigots, and xenophobes. And these racists, bigots, and xenophobes are pro-Trump conservatives. And he goes on to say that by opposing amnesty and open borders and sanctuary cities, that the Republican Party, especially the Trump supporters, the Trump conservatives, are, quote, on the wrong side of history, like segregation, Jim Crow, giving women the right to vote, gay marriage, etc., etc., etc. And so McManiac is saying that unless we embrace amnesty, open borders, and sanctuary cities, we are going to lose the Hispanic vote. Republicans will, conservatives will. We will lose the minority vote, and that eventually we are going to become a permanent rump. The Republicans will become a permanent rump in the country, a permanent minority rump. We will be confined to permanent minority status. What I find incredible about this guy saying this now is a couple of things. Number one, he's, according to his own family, very sick. They give him maybe a couple days, couple weeks to live. We don't know, but basically he's in very bad shape. And here he is, 1 foot in the grave, and he's got to give another middle finger to conservatives. Again, basically using Hillary's language and calling conservatives a basket of deplorables. To me, even more importantly, because this doesn't surprise me, because he's an elitist and a Chamber of Commerce, a donor class Republican. So that's always been McManiac, okay? He's just telling us now how he really feels and what he really thinks. To me, what I find even more incredible, this is exactly the advice that Republicans cooked up in an infamous report after Romney was defeated in 2012. We got to go more to the center and to the left on immigration. We need the conservatives need to, and the Republicans need to embrace amnesty, need to embrace illegals, need to embrace open borders, need to embrace sanctuary cities. That's how we're going to win. And what did Trump do? Trump did the exact opposite. He campaigned against amnesty, against open borders, called for a massive wall along the southern border, wants to crack down on sanctuary cities. In other words, Trump ran on literally the exact opposite platform that the establishment Rhino Republicans were urging the Republican grassroots to adopt, and he won. McManiac lost, Romney lost, the establishment kept losing, Trump won, and still, even after winning, this clown on his deathbed is telling us to adopt the very principles that Trump repudiated in the 2016 election. I mean, you couldn't make this up. I mean, he's a loser. With all due respect, he's a loser on every front. And he wants us to continue to adopt the same strategy and the same policies that the Republican grassroots don't want and that have been shown, proven demonstrably to fail. You know how Einstein defined insanity? You keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. This guy, who couldn't beat Obama, who couldn't even beat George W. Bush in the 2000 Republican primary, who's been essentially a political loser his entire life, is now giving us advice that has been shown to be completely false and wrong? Why should I take advice from you? So the guy that won by expanding the base, by appealing to middle America, by calling for a defense and to put America first, his strategy, according to you, is the wrong strategy, but McManiac, who has adopted essentially the Democrats' strategy of open borders and free trade and amnesty, the strategy that the conservative base does not want and has shown to be a political loser again and again, that's the one you want us to adopt? This is sad, this is pathetic, and this shows right until his grave, John McCain hates conservatives. And the last thing we should ever do is take any advice from that Judas. Agree, disagree, your calls. Next.
WRKO.
1248 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends. Stunning bombshell report now from the Federation for American Immigration Reform. 50%, 49 point something, almost 50% of all Americans now live in some kind of a sanctuary jurisdiction. Sanctuary state, sanctuary city, sanctuary town, whatever it may be. And it has now grown exponentially, they say, over the last 10 years. The sanctuary movement, giving safe harbor to illegal immigration and to illegal immigrants. They say at this pace, less than a decade, America itself will simply become a sanctuary country. John McCain, on his deathbed, is now saying in his latest book that America First Republicans are a, quote, tiny fraction, and that essentially we're all a bunch of bigots, and that the party should ignore us and adopt and embrace amnesty, open borders, and welcome all illegal immigrants in every sanctuary city. My question now to you is this. Do you feel like the sanctuary movement is essentially irresistible? Is it now invincible? Can it be stopped? And how do we stop it? Jerry on the Cape, thanks for holding and welcome. Comrade, how you are, my friend?
Jeff, a very wise man once said that this country would be corrupt and filled with liars, and that the people would flock to the one who told the truth. That was one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, almost 240 years ago, Jeff. And it's still very relevant today. Jeff, the man whose name we do not speak, a legacy case at the Naval Academy. He finished 894th out of 899 cadets there. And during training, he crashed 3 times. He crashed one plane into Corpus Christi Bay in Texas. He crashed another jet into power lines in Spain, and he crashed another one outside of Norfolk, Virginia. Jeff, when he went active duty in 1967 aboard the USS Forrestal, he used a technique which is called wet starting his jet. It's a buildup of fuel, and the result is a blast out the tailpipe of flame. When he hit the button, he hit the wrong button. He fired a rocket, dropped the bomb, and caused a fire that lasted 2 days. The result was 134 seamen dead and 69 injured. A week later, his father and grandfather arranged a transfer to the USS Oriskany. On October 26th of 1967, he was shot down. He went to the plantation, otherwise known as the Hanoi Hilton. 2 of his fellow POWs, Ted Guy and Gordon Larson, said he was not tortured. He was referred to as Songbird by most of his fellow inmates. Jeff, he had everything that when he was a prisoner of war, deemed top secret and sealed when he became a senator in 1987.
Jerry, I got to ask you this. Are you essentially saying that McCain is a fraud?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So I want to ask you this then. Why, Jerry, why is the media
saying that?
Yeah, Jerry, why is the media now, obviously they sense that the end is near. I mean, they're lionizing this guy already and acting like he's one of the greatest military war heroes this country's ever had.
Because he's one of them. He's not a hero. He's one of them. He agrees with them on the other side of the coin.
Jerry, you know, I agree with you. I agree with you, and thank you for that call. And Jared just whispered something in my ear, and I think he's dead on. And he said, Jeff, the other reason is he's not just a globalist like they are, and an elitist and part of the Washington establishment. He lost to Obama. You want to know why ultimately they revere him? He lost to Obama, and he threw in the towel as he lost to Obama. He wouldn't go after Reverend Jeremiah Wright. He wouldn't go after Bill Ayers. He wouldn't go after Bernardine Dorn. He wouldn't go after all of his cultural Muslim connections. And so he essentially let all of Obama's scandals, his true nature, everything that could have exposed them, he threw it all away. And that's why they revere him. Because by essentially laying down, he allowed Obama to come into power and then run roughshod for 8 years, essentially destroying America as we know it. And that's why Trump now has to try to save our country that Obama on the verge literally almost destroyed. So, and part of that has been basically ringing the dinner bell for illegal immigrants to pour into our country. Look, it's no accident. The report says it nakedly. We only had about 30 sanctuary jurisdictions when Obama came to power. Now we've got nearly 600. So it was obvious. It was under Obama. He invited illegal immigrants. I know they were coming in under Bush and Clinton. Don't get me wrong. But man, the floodgates were unleashed when Obama came into power. And of course, DACA is Exhibit A. And so now everybody in Latin America says, whoa, 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 whoa. The so-called dreamers are going to get an amnesty. If they're going to get an amnesty, why don't I get an amnesty? And now they just keep coming and coming and coming. And now you have Democrats saying, you want to come? Big bienvenido sign. Sanctuary city, or in California's case, sanctuary state, come on down. To the point 50% of all Americans now live under a sanctuary jurisdiction. That's where we are. So either Trump puts troops on the border and declares a national emergency and gets that wall built, or, my friends, we're going to be conquered. This is an historic invasion from the South. Either you repel it or they overwhelm you. It's either door 1 or door 2. I prefer to survive, but that's just me. Jerry and Methuen, you're up next. Go ahead, Jerry.
Hi, Jeff. Long-time listener.
Welcome, Jerry. Welcome.
I have a few basics, and that is this. If you work for the government in any capacity, for instance, you're a police chief, you're a mayor, you're a governor, if you violate the federal government, if you protect illegal aliens, if you interfere with the rounding up of illegal aliens, immediate fine and or imprisonment. Second step, let's get people registered. Let's have an ID card, a national ID card. And third, if you lease a car, if you rent a car, if you sell a car to an illegal, if you rent an apartment, if you hire an illegal, if you do this and you don't and you realize that they are illegal, fine and or imprisonment. I'm for the wall, but believe me, if you institute these things, you won't even need a wall.
Jerry, very well said. Really, really good call. Thank you. What I tell you, best callers in the business, the best audience in the business. I agree with you. I think it's time we said enough is enough. I would cut off all federal funding to any sanctuary city, any sanctuary jurisdiction, all federal funding gone. Now, gone. The mayors, and start with Joe Curtatone, Mr. Tough Guy, okay? And throw in Macho Marty as well. I would, both of them. You want to continue to hinder federal immigration officers to go after illegal immigrants? You want to stand in the way? You want to side with illegals against the federal government? That is treason. That is illegal. And we're going to lock you up. We're going to slap you on, Tough Guy. We're going to throw some handcuffs on you and send you to jail. I would lock all of them up. I would go after those who hire illegals, those who rent to illegals. You do any business with illegal aliens, they should put you in jail and throw the book at you. You do that, and you start deporting them, and this problem is over. The question is, we know how to do it. Who has the will to do it? That's the question. Glenn on the South Shore, you're up next. Go ahead, Glenn.
Jeff, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Glenn.
Thank you. If we become a sanctuary country, then aren't we no longer the United States of America? And wasn't that Obama's ultimate goal for fundamental change in our country, Jeff? And furthermore, he is the ultimate illegal alien, because I am still not convinced he was an American citizen. I don't know if you agree with that, but welcome to the United Illegals of America.
Glenn, what Obama, a brilliant call. Thank you for that call, Glenn.
Thanks, Jeff.
What Obama wanted to do, in a nutshell, and he said it, he was open. Say what you want. He was open about it. We want to, quote, fundamentally transform the United States of America. So the question is, what did he want to fundamentally transform us to? To me, America was great. I mean, nobody's perfect. No country's perfect. But at the time Obama came into power, and I still believe to this day, okay? I believe we were able to withstand enough of it. I still think this is the greatest country in the world, okay? I'm telling you right now. But let that go. When he came to power, the United States was the greatest nation in the history of the world. What did you need to transform? What did you, I mean, as I said, okay, add more people, give them access to health insurance, whatever. Okay, fine, no country's perfect. But fundamentally, this is the greatest country in the history of the world. So what are you trying to transform? His goal was to transform us into the United Socialist States of America, from the USA to the USSA. If we become a sanctuary country, as we are now slated to become, if we don't reverse this, he will have accomplished his fundamental mission. And that's why we need to stop it now while we can. Okay, continue to take your calls. Coming up next, liberal, feminist hypocrites. Don't touch that dial.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 100.7 WZLX HD2 Boston, an iHeart radio station.